just wanted to do a quick video about our paint stuff because I know when I was first starting out I found it really difficult to find out anything. The paper I use is Daler & Rowney, I think that's how you pronounce it. The Langton Prestige paper is 100% cotton and the type I get is cold press. There's two main types of watercolour paper, hot press and cold press. Hot press is smoother than cold press, and you also find that when you try and paint on them they'll act differently, so I suggest trying both to see which you prefer. For colours I use Dr. Martens Radiant Watercolours and the Ecoline inks. For my black I use a Winsor & Newton Indian ink. I use an Indian ink because it makes it a lot easier when doing fades into black, because you'll find that if you use one of these type of blacks it'll appear muddy and it'll mix, whereas if you use an Indian ink it'll dry permanent and it'll make it a lot easier for you. For brushes I just use Winsor & Newton Cotton series. Any type of watercolour brush will do. I wouldn't suggest using a brush like this because it won't hold the water as well as a watercolour brush. For outlining I just use any type of fine liner as long as it's waterproof. I've got a Faber-Castell one, Uni pen, Micron, but yeah, just make sure they're waterproof because if they're not waterproof you'll end up ruining your painting, because when you go to paint it you'll find that the black off the outline will mix in and it'll ruin it, so just make sure that the ink's waterproof. If I want to do a bolder line I'll use a Sharpie pen or a Faber-Castell brush pen. I have found though that the nibs wear down quite fast on these. It's helpful to have a palette to put your colours in and your paints, but if you don't have one don't worry, I just use a piece of plastic or anything you have. Also a cup to put your water in. And that's just a little overview of what I use. I'm just going to give you a quick little demonstration on our paint, but if people want to go into more detail just leave a comment and I'll do a proper video on it. So I use two brushes. I use one as a water brush and a smaller one for using the inks. What I'll do normally first is I'll wet the area using my water brush, and you don't want it soaking wet but you want to be able to see it's a bit shiny. So, and then I'll get the ink on the other brush, bring it into the wet side, and then using my water brush I'll just go back and forth and fade it out. And what I actually do is I control the amount of water that's on my brush by putting it in my mouth. If you put the paintbrush in your mouth and you suck on it, you can actually control how much water you have in your brush, and if you keep doing it you'll get used to how much water you need to blend it in and out. So I'll just do another one. Wet the area first so it's a bit shiny, and then I'll get the ink. I'll just bring the ink down one side of the edge. You'll see the ink run into the water. Then using my water brush I'll just blend it in, going back and forth, blending it into the water, like that. There we go. And then I've done this using the Indian ink, and because I've done this using the Indian ink that'll dry permanent, so that if I take a colour over the top it won't mix with it. I'll show you what I mean now. So I'm going to use this Ecoline yellow. To be honest, the Ecoline ones I normally just paint straight out of it, whereas the Dr. Martens ones I'll put in the palette. And then if you wanted to do like the black into the yellow and then back to white, what I'd do is I'd just get the yellow, I'd just go straight over the black because it's permanent, it's not going to mix, and then get some water and then just back and forth with your brush, just fade that out back into the white. And then my brush is still really wet here but I don't want to keep dragging that out, so what I'll do is I'll put the brush in my mouth and I'll soak up the water that's on the brush and then go back in and go back and forth and just fade it out there till it's back into the Do the same this next one. Get my yellow on there, just go straight over the top, drag it out a bit, and then switch brushes. Get my water brush, and then just go back and forth and drag it out there as it's getting lighter. So same again here, I've ended up with a big puddle of water off the brush, so I just put the brush in my mouth. And don't worry, because none of these paints are toxic. Just put the brush in my mouth, just soak the water up, then I can go back in and soak up all the excess water. It does take quite a few goes to get used to, but it's definitely worth keep trying it and you get the hang of it eventually. If you have any problems, just ask. So I'm just going to draw a simple shape here, and then I'm just going to use colour on this one. I'm going to use tobacco brown, the PH Martins. So I'm just going to wet the area first in the middle where I want the blend to be. Still a bit yellow because I've not cleaned my brush properly. And then put the paint on the smaller brush. Just bring it into one side like that. You'll see it run into the water. Then using my water brush, I'm just going to go back and forth and drag it out. Keep going back and forth, keep working it. You just got to keep trying it and you get the hang of it. And then I'll just get some more paint and then I'll just go in the back here. Just fill that in. Like that. And then if you see any bits that still look a bit funny, I'll just have a bit of water on my brush. I'll just go back over it. You can just keep playing with it like that until you're happy with it. Just going to show you now what I'd do if I wanted to blend 3 colours. I'm going to do the black into the green and then the yellow. Just going to draw a leaf shape. So first of all, I'll do my black. I'll just wet the area across the middle here, because I'm going to have it black here, and then green in the middle, and then yellow on this edge. So I'll just bring the water across the middle. Then I'll get the black Indian ink. Don't want my brush to have loads of ink on it, because if I come over a big massive load on the brush, it'll just end up going everywhere. So you're better off putting not enough on, and then you can add more later if you want. Then I'm just going to slowly just bring that over into the water. Pick up my water brush. I'm just going to fade that there across the leaf. There we go. And then just fill in those little bits in the black. Right. And then may as well do the other side as well. Sometimes when there's a little tight bit like this, I'll put the colour down first. In this case the black. I'll put the black down on that edge first, and then I'll put the water down instead. Just bring that. Probably put a bit too much on, to be honest, as you can see. Go. Let's clean that brush. So I just put my colours to my palette. Green. thing's knackered. Brilliant. Right, so I'd start by putting the yellow on first, just so that the green doesn't just take over. So I'll just paint straight on, just get the yellow, put the yellow in on the edge, then I'll just go straight into the green, and I'll just bring the green up into it like that and just mix it just straight on the paper, and then straight over into the black. If you do find that they're not mixing quite proper, you can take your water brush, just a little bit of water, just to help it, just push it along there, and do the same on the other side. Bring yellow in first, get the green, take the green straight on to the paper, mix it, and there you go, we've got 3 colours fading. We've got the black, the green, and then into the yellow. Once I've drew something on paper that I want to paint, I'll use a light box to transfer it onto the watercolour paper. Using a light box is a lot easier than using tracing paper, because you don't have to go over all the lines and then flip it over and end up with a reversed image. All you do is you just put the watercolour paper over the top and it'll show through. If you don't have a light box, you can use a clear piece of perspex or glass with just a desk lamp behind it. I'll then just outline what I'm going to paint. Once I've got it all outlined, first thing I do is put all the black in. Once I'm happy with all the black I've put down, I'll then add colour to it. If anybody's got some more questions, just leave a comment.